Mhm.
Welcome, welcome everybody. Greg Peterson coming to you from my new place in Asheville, North Carolina. Welcome. Thank you for being here. I am here with Miss Janis. Hello, Janis.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Growing Grains, another one of our fun webinars.
Yeah, I was thinking about it a lot the past couple of weeks, and it occurred to me, it's like, hello, for those of you older out there, you'll know what I mean. McFly. I said that in class one day in front of a bunch of 19-year-olds, and it was nothing. Total deadpan. Anyways, grains or grass. Can you grow grass? If you can grow grass, you can grow grains.
Right?
Yeah. So I'm here with Kari Spencer. We're going to introduce here in a minute, and I'm here with Bill McDorman. We're going to introduce him in a minute. And tonight we are talking about grains and how to grow grains. So let us just go ahead
Let me
and jump.
share a screen real quick.
Oh, okay, please do.
We're talking about growing grains with Kari Spencer and Bill McDorman. This is a project with the Great American Seed Up and the Urban Farm. Well, it is a Great American Seed Up project. The Urban Farm is our host for the webinar. And of course, we've got some really good companies with Kari Spencer, the Micro Farm Project, and Bill at Cornville Seeds. So yay.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So we're just going to jump in. Let me pull up the right screen here. We're going to jump in and learn from Kari about.
You're going to give our bios?
There you go. Yeah, that's where I was trying to get to. All right. Let's see here. Kari is a popular local gardening and homesteading speaker in Phoenix. As a master gardener and a master farmer, she enjoys sharing her passion for growing and raising food with others. In addition to teaching classes all over Phoenix, she is the creator of Urban Farm U's Growing Food the Basics and Backyard Livestock courses. Her book, City Farming, the How-To Guide to Growing Crops and Raising Livestock in Urban Spaces, published by 5M Publishing, is a comprehensive yet easy to read resource for any gardener or urban farmer. She is also the author of Vegetable Gardening Logbook and Journal, published by Callisto Media. Welcome, Kari.
Both of those books can be found at the Great American Seed Up website.
Nice.
Thanks, Greg.
You bet. So tonight, Kari is going to start us off with an update on the global grain market, because we've got some challenges there, don't we, Kari?
Yeah, we do. Yeah. You want me to go ahead and get started now?
Actually, let me throw Bill's bio in real quick, just so we can get credit there.
All right, super.
Bill is a co-founder of Rocky Mountain Seed Alliance and from Ketchum, Ohio, and the Great American Seed Up. He's got his start in the bioregional seed movement while in college in 1979, when he helped start Garden City Seeds. In 1984, Bill started Seeds Trust High Altitude Gardens, a mail order seed company he ran successfully until it sold in 2013. He also founded seedsave.org, a website dedicated to seed education. I see you got a theme here, great, Bill. He authored the book Basic Seed Saving in 1994. And in 2010, he and his wife, Belle Starr, created Seed School, a nationally recognized week-long training. He served as executive director of Native Seed Search from 2011 to 2014. And Bill is passionate and knowledgeable presenter who inspires his audience to learn to save their own seeds.
Yay. And we need to say one more thing. Please put your questions in the Q&A button at the bottom. We probably might not be able to get to them. If they're in the chat, we might miss them. So Q&A is for questions.
Our Q&A is actually going to be a major point of tonight's webinar, because what we're doing is Bill and Kari are going to talk about what they've learned about grains, but we're going to open up to allow questions. Because of the time limitations, however, we don't know if we're going to get to all the questions. So we've opened up this new element on our questions. You can upvote questions you like. So take a look at the questions. And if you see one that you really want to know an answer to, vote it up. We'll make sure we answer those first.
Awesome. All right, now Janis and I are going to mute and let Kari jump in. Thank you, Janis. Good job.
All right, I'm just going to give a bird's eye view of what's going on in the status of grains worldwide, because I want to give plenty of time for Bill to talk, because what he has to talk about is absolutely fascinating. And if you joined us several months ago, I think maybe it was in April or May, I gave a similar talk, and this is just an update to that. But yeah, since the pandemic, and then since the war in Ukraine started, there's been a real squeeze on grains. And currently, you've probably seen a lot of things on the news if you're even a casual news watcher. But there was Russia had put a blockade on the ports that are located in the Baltic Sea, and that was holding up the grain harvest that was coming out of the Ukraine. And so those grains were not able to get out of the Ukraine. And to put that in perspective, between the two countries, Russia and Ukraine, that represents about 30% of the world grain exports. So that's that's a huge part of the world grain market. And so in July, the good news is in July, those trade routes were opened back up. And so now grains are starting to come out of the Baltic Sea, getting out of the Ukraine. Now, the situation is still quite complicated. It is a short-term agreement, 6 months. And we don't know if that's going to be enough time to get all of the grain that was stored in the silos waiting to get out, if that's going to be enough time to get everything out of there. But we're hopeful. And there was a lot of worry that that was going to cause countries that were already under a lot of food pressure to experience famine. And we did see, though, that the UN sent a ship in, I think it was on the 16th, and they picked up quite a bit of grain to send to Ethiopia. And so hopefully there will be ships going in and out of there that can pick up grain for countries that are experiencing hunger. And also hopefully with exports going in and out, exports coming out of Russia and Ukraine and some other countries that also export grains, that will help with the grain crisis. And if you want to travel all the way from Europe over to our side of the planet, the United States, the grain outlook at the beginning of the year was not great. Fortunately, though, things have been a little bit better than expected. The drought situation is still not wonderful in the United States, but we have seen a little bit of bounce back from last year in the Northeast and some other areas. And the wheat harvest, in any case, has been a little bit better this summer than it was expected to be. And things are a little bit all over the map in South and Central America. It's been a La Nina year. If you're familiar with El Nino and La Nina years, in Argentina, a La Nina year has not been great for wheat, but in Brazil, it has been great. And so while Argentina's wheat has not been good, Brazil's has. And so, I mean, worldwide things have, if you balance it all out globally, things have been a little bit better than expected, but still there are shortages. And so the market is tight, and we're seeing not just in grains, but in food overall. From last year, food prices in the United States are up 10% from last year. And you know, I've been experiencing that in the grocery store. And there are a lot of things that we can do. And I am actually working on a blog right now of things, really specific things that we can do to help the situation worldwide, as well as helping ourselves here in the United States. So if you're on the Great American Seed Up website, you can take a look at that. And we'll also be talking about that at Seed Up Saturday, this Saturday. But also one great thing that we can be doing is looking at perhaps growing some of our own grains. And that's something that I am really excited about doing for myself, not just for the possibility that I might not be able to get the bread that I am currently buying at the grocery store, or maybe I might not be able to get it as readily, but also just because I really want to learn how to do it, just for my own security and for the excitement of learning how to do it. You know, I watch what Bill is doing, and it fascinates me. So I don't want to take up too much time so that Bill can talk. But if you are interested in learning more, I have written a quite an extensive blog that I will be posting probably tomorrow or possibly the next day at greatamericanseedup.org. And if anybody has any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. I realize that this has been a really quick.
Well, you also, you have a request for everybody.
I do. If there's anything that you really want to know, either about the grain market or about growing grains or about using grains, anything in relation to grain, particularly wheat, please put that into the chat so that we know, because we would like to be able to address those questions and those concerns, because we've found that it is something that has been on people's minds. And so we'd like to be able to help people out with that.
That's a big part of what we are about, is bringing in awesome content so that you can grow your own.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Kari.
Mhm.
Are you ready to jump in, Bill?
I am.
All right.
Me okay?
Yep. I'm just going to turn it over to you, and you can present, and we'll stop our videos and mute and let you go.
Let me get my thing up. How's it look? Everything look okay?
Yep, you're good.
All right. So what I want to do is get everybody to grains, and I think there's Kari talked about there's world reasons. Probably countries all over the world are shortening their supply lines. There's a genuine worry that with climate change, the great grain growing regions of the world are going to change. We're seeing diseases break out in places we never had, because monsoon rains at times we never had them. Early spells, late frost. There's all of this can disrupt our grain. And make no mistake, grain is the food. You know, it's the underlying planet. When it gets disrupted, there's problems, if not wars, over it. And so the picture that you're seeing is from Poland, actually, in 1938. And I like to show this because this is my vision for the future. This is the homeowner association I want to live in. So it says, just pretend it's Friday night and you're driving home for the week, and instead of stopping at Planet Fitness, you're going to go home because this is your annual grain harvesting day, and everybody's sharpening up their scythes, and it's like a square dance. Everybody's in rhythm. And what we're going to do, instead of having a golf course at the center of our homeowner association, and a pool and everything, we now grow grains, and we can probably grow enough in a 10 to 20 acre place. Well, I know we can, that the whole subdivision enough bread for the whole year. So
Hey, Bill?
we'll, yeah.
Would you turn your video off? It's taking up some bandwidth and your audio's dropping out a little bit. So,
Oh, I can do that. Yeah, sorry about that.
no, it's good.
Let me.
Want me to?
No, I got it there.
All right.
That better?
Yep. Perfect.
All right. So anyway, that's my vision for the future. And I'm saying this not because of survival reasons or whatever, but more for my own health reasons. And it's just the best thing that I've learned to grow. I've been gardening for over 40 years, and I've fallen into the rabbit hole of grains, and I don't think I'm ever going back. And this is important. This is a chart from the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. And it just shows how much of the food that humans consume come from grains. That's the largest slot there in the bottom. And almost all meat, dairy, and eggs is actually supported by grains also. It's up to 70%. We've got a great local food movement. We've got farmers markets. We've got chefs. You know, everybody's talking about local food, but almost none of the grain is local yet. And so I'm a real fan of localizing that on small scales. And I know most people think that, you know, to grow grain, you need a 21-foot wide combine just to get started. And that's what we've all been taught. But that's not nearly the truth. And that's not the history of grains. Most of it's been done on really, really small scale, individual scale, or even village scale. And there's another reason for this that's a corollary. This is a chart for how much greenhouse gas is given off for the kinds of food that we produce. And if you look in there, grains are a little teeny blue slice, 2.1%. So even though it's a huge amount of what we eat, it's very little as far as its impact with greenhouse gases as we go forward. And the major reason we should all get involved in it, I think, is because of lots of diversity. We've lost more than 90% of all the crop varieties that were in farmers' fields, say in 1903, today. And so what that means is that our agriculture isn't as strong. And especially in the face of climate change, we need diversity. We need as many different kinds of crops and different varieties of each of those crops growing, so that if we get hit with hot weather, we get hit with a flood, we get hit with frost or whatever, some of those varieties have a chance to survive. There are probably 30,000 varieties of wheat being grown at the turn of the century and the 1900s. And somebody told me there's only about a dozen genotypes growing all of the bread wheat in the United States today. So it's even more than a 90% drop. And another really good reason, or the reason why many people are starting to look or get into this, are the alternative grains and the ancient grains and the heritage grains. And the reason for that is that they seem to cause less gut problems. People are less sensitive to these grains. And I'm not going to go into all of this, but Margaret Harris at University of Colorado Springs has her own gluten sensitivity. And so she's taken upon herself to read all the papers and up to speed. And she generally recommends moving back to the older ancient grains that have more protein, less gluten. They're not gluten-free, but they make a huge difference in our lives as far as health is concerned. And so I put the link to her talk in the chat if you want to watch that yourself. So for me, there's only one real answer: go home and grow grains. It'll be the most fun, exciting, and beautiful thing you've ever done. This is my front yard. Earlier this year, I was growing about 27 different kinds of ancient and heritage grains. And I'm telling you, if you don't have a grain to go out and hug in the morning in your garden, then you're missing it. I mean, that's a 1,000-year-old variety of Tibetan barley, Tibetan purple barley there in front of me. And that's a rye that I'm grabbing onto. But I've never, in all of my gardening career, grown things that were easier to grow, more productive, more beautiful, just more fun than the grains. And so I've joined the fresh flower movement. That's my mock mill on the left. I recommend mock mills. They're desktop horizontal stone mills. So you can fresh grind your flour. When you fresh grind it, you get all the volatile oils are still in that flour. That means nutrition and flavor. Once you do this, it's hard to go back. I got a rock box, which is a real stone oven. So I make pizzas now. That's a breakfast pizza I made the other morning. Put a couple of eggs on it. It takes about 90 seconds. And I'm doing all of this with just sourdough leavening, the old-fashioned way. My breads and my pizzas are just flour, salt, and water. When we did a grain school at the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs, another interesting character I met was Dr. Ralph Bush. He is actually a professor at the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs. And he is unique in my life because he grows all his own grains in his own garden, backyard garden at home, outside of Colorado Springs. And he's the one who told me that you can get about 7 loaves of bread out of a 100-square-foot bed. That's his average anyway. And he every year makes cookies for all the graduates at the Air Force Academy out of grains that he grew. And so, as I said, just the flavor and the texture and the health in growing your own grains, it's like Dr. Bush, he's just never going back probably. You know, when we got started looking into this about 10 years ago, it was like, wow, you know, there's like 800,000 varieties of wheat, 400,000 varieties of barley, 30,000 being grown in the United States in 1900. Where do we start? How do we find the right grains, especially the older heritage grains? And so what we did was we found the classification of wheat from the USDA, 1919. Think about it, before most chemicals, this was organic agriculture, before most huge irrigation systems. So a lot of us drought tolerant. You can pull up every maps of every state and the lists of all the grains being grown in those states. And so that was really cool, except then where do you get the seeds? Well, it turns out the USDA will send you some of these seeds, but they only send you about 50 seeds. And so how do you scale 50 seeds up to farm level again? Well, we've been working on it now. We've got about 195 grain trialists, we call them, that have joined our network. And they're actually around the world, and everybody's just trying a little bit. And what they do is they'll start with 50 seeds, and they'll start with a little bit more. They'll grow them out, and then they'll return to us at the Heritage Grain Alliance twice as much seed as we sent them originally, and that's how we grow the program and send those seeds on to others. And we've now scaled up 20 grains to farm size, and there are 2 actual successful grain growing businesses, 3 or 4 in Arizona, and so I can buy almost all the grains I need from local farmers. And this is what I recommend everybody how to do all over the country: local grain economy. So you can sign up for our program or get access by the packet. Well, right now I've got about 60 grains back up again. We just made a transition from the Rocky Mountain Alliance, and hopefully within the next 6 months we'll have all 285 back up again. So, and if you want to buy larger amounts right away, either to bake with, to try, or because these are all good seeds, there's our baker's bundle from the Great American Seed Up, and I think Janet's going to talk about that more in a minute. But what I want to really do, I'm going to answer one other question, is that people go, well, how can I grow more than 1 grain in my garden at the same time? Won't they cross? Won't there be problems? And the short answer is no. That's Dr. Steve Jones grow outs at the Bread Lab. They grew out 10 varieties of wheat so that they could try to find the best bread wheat for the Skagit Valley in Washington. He's part of WSU. And they grew all these plots from about crossing, said, no, we didn't really see any. Wheat is a self-pollinating plant, pollinates itself largely before the flower opens. The same way. Rice is the same way. And you can grow them right next to each other. So help us grow a bunch of these things and increase the seed and send them out to your friends. Take them to your local farmer's market. Send them back to whatever you want to do. You know, what Steve did then is they baked 900 little loaves of bread so they could actually taste each of the grains on their quest to find the best bread wheat for their valley. And that's what I suggest we all try to do. So I just want to show you real quickly and maybe hopefully get you excited with some of the grains that we're getting involved with. Einkorn is one that you'll hear about. It's actually a wild grass. It only has 14 chromosomes. It's 35 to 50% higher in protein. The wild grass, that picture on the left, is still growing in Turkey. You can still go see it. Last year in the New York Times, they had an article about it. They think people have been harvesting the seeds to this grass for 14,000 years. I mean, that's 4,000 years before we started agriculture. Amazing. And it's the same plant. It's just being grown. Somebody saves the seeds wherever they are for whatever they want, and they start to diversify it. And we've done that all over the world. There's the wild again. And so, you know, there've got to be thousands of varieties of einkorn. We've only stayed through about, I don't know, 30 or 40. Black and tan there on the left is the most exciting one for me because it's holeless. It threshes free. So when you clean the seed, you can just grind it up and eat it. That's a lot of the einkorns have a little hole around each seed that you then have to take off in a separate step. Another big name you'll hear if you're getting into ancient grains are the emmers. Now this has twice as many chromosomes as the einkorn because they crossed somewhere with a goat grass, they think. A grass that was growing in those fields with a wild einkorn. But unbelievably adaptable. It's being grown all over the world. There's a project in Germany right now. They found 150 different varieties of emmer. They're trying to grow them out there to see which ones work best for them, work best for breads. Unbelievable flavor for breads, I would say. And this is Toulouse emmer, an emmer I grew in my yard this year. That is an untouched iPhone photograph of Toulouse emmer in my yard. I've never seen anything so beautiful. And again, this emmer is threshing. Lots of times you'll hear about durum. Durum is semolina, is another way of saying it. It's another 28 chromosome wheat. It's probably the most popular ancient grain still grown worldwide. 5% of the world's wheat is still durum for pasta, especially in Italy. And it is refreshing, and that's probably why it's so popular. But there's huge diversity. I grew Harani. Harani's talked about in the Old Testament. Nebuchadnezzar grew Harani. They think that the seeds to this Harani were actually found in one of the tombs in Egypt and brought back, we don't know how long ago, but it's still being passed around. And that's a picture of Harani being grown in 3 different parts of the United States. And even the same seeds grown in different parts of the world end up working. And that's the secret to all of this. We need to grow all of these out where we are and adapt them to where we are and see if we really like them. This is blueberry durum. This is being sold in bulk now in Arizona. This is in my yard. I mean, this is what I saw. I mean, I've never had anything make me feel so abundant. One of the other grains you hear about a lot is spelt. Spelt's actually a 42 chromosome wheat. It's a modern. That's because the emmers crossed somewhere again with another wild grass and created a whole new plant. And generally more chromosomes are adaptable, and it's been adapted all over the planet. As I said, 800,000 varieties worldwide. Probably 400,000 of those are available in the seed banks. Spelt is incredibly flavorful and nutritious, like the old ancient wheats, but it has the baking qualities of the modern bread wheats. And so that's why I like spelt. And so this year I grew what is called a free threshing spelt. It doesn't have the hull on it. And this is what we're all looking for. And if you've got questions, I'll be able to answer them. So again, these grains are available now. If you can't find them locally, you want to look and start on your own with small packets. We've got them at the Heritage Grain Alliance. Or if you want to really get going, get our grain bundle. our baker's bundle from the Great American Seed Up. And I don't know any place. Well, I was looking at that list of the Einkorn, Emmer, and Spelt, and Durham, and White Sonora, and Wheats that are available in that bundle, and they are not available anywhere. You can't buy those as a group anywhere else. And so it's really special. I think that just reflects our excitement about getting into this. So I just want to leave you with a picture. This is actually a picture of the Chubaki in Ukraine. And the Chubaki were the original grain growers and grain traders, and they would load their grains up on wagons and take them down to what's now Odessa. This started, they called them the Black Paths. This is before Rosie. This goes back to the building of the first empires on the planet. And they were built, make no mistake, because we had abundant amounts of grain. And a lot of it came from this region. But I love the reflection. This is me in the afternoon. I want to be sitting on my pile of grain and feeling abundant, feeling secure, and knowing that I'm eating a more nutritious food. It's local. I'm having less of an impact on the planet, and I'm having more fun than I've ever had. So I get you excited about grains. So, as I said, put your questions in the Q&A.
All right, we do have a bunch of questions, but before we get, why don't you go ahead and turn your video back on and see if that's making any difference now. Before we get to that, I was thinking we need a full-on class on actually how to grow grains.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
the physicality. Maybe next month we should do a growing grains, actually how to grow grains. But can you give people 3 minutes on growing grains? I'm going to interrupt you again. It's grass. It's super simple.
One of the things, first things that people ask about, and these questions I think come because of the industrial system. We have to be careful because so much of what we think is complicated, grains and even seed saving, is complicated because it has to be for big industrial scales. Mm-hmm. When you start growing things on your home garden level, and it's small and immediate, a lot of the complexity goes away. But one of the things that you'll be asked probably is, do I plant this in the spring? Or do I plant this in the fall just before winter? Because we've got this whole category we call winter grains. And so, what we're learning is that especially with the older grains, the ancient and heritage ones, you should try them either time, both times. In the spring, try to grow them out during the summer and see how they do. And then along about October and November, before there's snow, especially wherever you are, plant them again. And if you get snow, they'll stay. Sometimes they'll germinate just before the snow. It'll snow. Okay, they're made for this. They're really durable and tough. They're like grass. They're long up in the spring. They'll come up, and then usually for our winter grains, we harvest in June, July, or August. And that's a better time for us here in the northern part of the United States to grow them because way less water. There's less heat, less water, and then that opens up my garden for me to be able to grow other things at that time.
Yeah. Excellent. Cool. So I muted your video again.
Yeah, I got it.
Just because you were breaking up again there. So Janis, you were brilliant by upvoting the questions. So we're just going to go with the questions that have the most interest. So in the Q&A section, there's a way to upvote the question. So if you want one answered, upvote it. Jewel says, assuming growing grains is easy, but how do we harvest and process it?
Therein lies the devil. Actually, I'm doing this on a hand scale. So I got a sickle, which is a curved shaped knife. Mm-hmm. And there are companies now, there's one in Maine called Sickle and Scythe that are starting to make and sell these sorts of implements. I mean, there was a time probably in the 30s in the United States, everybody had one. If you're going to do a little bit farther, larger field, you can do a scythe. I've got friends now that are getting into small scale combines that are only 3 or 4 feet wide. So if you want to go up. So a combine is a combination. of something that cuts your grain. That's what you use your sickle for.
Yep.
And then after we cut it, then the next thing you need to do is thresh it. Threshing is where you get the grain out of the plant.
Uh-huh.
And a combine combines cutting and threshing.
Oh,
And so that's all that machine is or means. And so there's all sorts of but I've been doing all of my grains by hand with I've got a trash can. Sometimes I'll just shake them real hard into a trash can behind me, and that works for my naked oats. And this is what I would call the craft. And a lot of this was cultural, and we've lost it. And so it's kind of fun to rediscover it. So if you can get involved with other people or come back and questions or go to gatherings and get little hints and see people do it, that's probably the best way for you to learn.
Cool. David wants to know, what can I use seeds from the store, like quinoa? So can he go buy a bag of organic quinoa at the store and plant it?
Yes, you can. I'm a big favor of that. However, if you looked around a little bit, you may be able to find something that's already adapted or known to grow where you are. You don't know where that quinoa came from. And it's possible to import quinoa from the high altiplano in the Andes. And the problem with that is that that part of the Andes that grows the most quinoa is closer to the equator. That quinoa has a different sensibility to day length. In other words, all the days are about the same length. Once you move away from the equator, right, it gets way long in the summer and short in the winter, and it's transitioning all summer long, and it's changing every day. And quinoa doesn't like that; it may not flower. So that would be the risk you would take with quinoa. But always try. Always make your mistakes small. And
Right.
my guess is, if you look around now, there are small companies and seed exchanges in your area that have quinoa that has been grown right where you are. And if for my dog, that's what I would do.
Cool. Roseanne wants to know, when growing grains, how much area do you need to have in your garden?
Well, as I said, I showed you my front yard. I don't know how many square feet. It's probably 600 or 700 square feet. I grew 27 different varieties because I was trying to increase seed to send out to other people. And Dr. Ralph Bush, 100 square foot, that gives 7 loaves of bread. So figure out how many loaves of bread you need and multiply it. I would think 49 loaves of bread. That's one a week, and then you can take a vacation. That for me, if you have a family, you have to multiply that again, but it's really not that big a plot of land. And maybe if it's too much for your garden, that's where a community level comes in, or a community garden. I know they've done this in Phoenix with Joan Barron now. They've got a community garden, and they decide a larger plot for everybody and they pick 3 grains to grow, and they all help harvest and clean. So maybe that's a little bit better way. That's probably been the way it's been done since the Middle Ages.
Where I lived here in Asheville, it's a bit of a rural space, and there's these grasses that they plant to hold the berms in place to keep them from washing away. And the seed heads were pretty big, but it wasn't an edible grain that they were using. And it just occurred to me, that's where grains are grass. It's easy to grow grass. So,
if you want to be a really great gardener, John Jevons has always been one of my teachers in his How to Grow More Vegetables book. I think the latest version of that, he says you should be growing 60 to 70% of your garden area should be grains anyway.
wow.
It builds soil. You get the straw for your compost pile. It covers your soil. Many farmers, especially small organic and market farmers, get into grains first because as a cover crop between their so-called dollar crops. And what's happening is those guys are becoming brainiacs like I am. And once they start growing, they're so much fun, and they're so
Brainiacs.
beautiful. Yeah, yeah.
I love it. Amber wants to know suggestions for processing grains for human consumption.
Well, Dr. Bush taught me. I built a little box. You can find a cardboard one if you want it. I got a piece of hardware cloth. Hardware cloth is that 1/4 inch square mesh wire. You can get at any hardware store. Put a layer of that on the bottom of my box. And so after I sickle my grains off, I dump them into the box and I just dance on them. Use my feet. Do the twist. And almost all the grains will fall out. Even my new free threshing Einkorn, but it wasn't really good yet for that. It's only about 50%, but we're getting there. And then all I do is I take that box and I pour it in front of a fan. So I've got my fan up on a chair. I got a box underneath to pour my grains into. And I adjust my fan. I push it back a little till I get the wind just right. You can do this just with wind. I mean, that's how it's been done from time memorial, I guess. But anyway, I'll pour the grains through the air coming from my fan, and it'll blow all the chaff. That's another word that you'll learn. Mm-hmm. And I'll end up with almost perfectly clean grains. It's clean enough for me to take into my mock mill, usually, or to make oatmeal or whatever I want to do. So it's a pretty simple process. And again, if you get set up to do this, if you got all your grains, you can do it all in just a few minutes.
Amen. I'm going to throw this question at you, Kari. Roseanne wants to know, with the seed up, I've been looking at the prices in packages. If I don't have anyone to share with, can I use some of the grain seeds this year and save the rest for future years?
Absolutely. Yeah. In fact, we encourage you to do that. Yeah, because it's a good idea to practice, not just stick it in the freezer and maybe never see it again, but just, grow some out and put some away. It's a great idea.
Yeah. And you can save them long term. If you want to save them long term, get a gallon jar with a lid and put the grain in there, and you can actually store them in the freezer in a gallon jar.
Yeah.
Rachel wants to know, and this is for all of us, I just had my first wheat harvest eaten by birds. What's the best way to prevent this?
Plant more.
Yeah.
The birds can be a real problem. And so, if I don't know what to tell you. I have not had personal experience with that. I have a friend who bought bird netting for 10 acres. And if you
my gosh,
Europe, so I've seen people even go up to scale for that. I guess if it were mine, one of the things I would try are the ancient grains. I showed you some of the ones that have really long, what they're called awns, coming off the grains. They look like big hairy heads, like the Hurani durum I showed. Mm-hmm. Those awns are on there to keep the birds out there, poke them. And so for birds and insects, ancient grains are designed with that in mind. It's only the modern grains that are pretty much naked that allow easy access for the bird. So I don't know what kind of wheat you grew, but my guess is that it's an awn-less, AWN less grain. You might try one with awns. And if you want to make a transition, you might try one of the durums, because they're a lot like the modern wheats, but they still have the awns. And there are heritage varieties, older heritage varieties of wheat that were grown all over the country in the 30s, 40s, and 50s that had awns.
Cool. Anne wants to know, are the grains that we have in our bundle, are they good for all growing areas, growing zones?
Yes. Are they the best ones for your particular thing, like if you grew all 300,000 or 400,000 varieties, would these be the ones you would end up with? Who knows? But generally, you lack older in varieties, you have more diversity built in to the crop. They're closer to being wild plants. And so they have more of a chance to actually adapt where you are. But now you're on your adventure. Everybody should start with these. And actually that's what's happening is we're going back, we're hitting some home runs back home. We're finding grains that have been around that everybody seems to like, and they seem to work in widely different areas. And like the white Sonoran and the Emmer and the Einkorn that are in these mixes. And so grow them first, used to it. You're probably going to have a success, but don't let that stop you from continuing the adventure. And I know this is going to happen. The problem here isn't that you're going to strike out and miss or go on to something else. The problem here is that you're going to get so into this, the rest of us have, that you're never going to be able to let go. You're going to have to change your life to have more room now. You have to have more access to more different varieties just because it's fun.
Yeah. Perfect. Let's see here. Terry says clay soil here. Will I have any success? Well, I'm going to jump in on that one just real quick, and then I'll let you answer, Bill. The grains that we're growing along the roadside on my road out in front of my house, we're growing in pretty much straight clay soil. And they were easily 4 feet tall and covered with, covered with seeds. So it's a grass. I mean, grass grows wild, right, Bill?
Well, lots of times farmers will plant rye, Cicale cereal, which is the green rye, as a cover crop to help break up clay soils. So again, your job is to find which grain works best in your soil. One of the things we're starting to do is copy the Occidental Arts and Ecology Center in California that got the USDA to send them 2,000 varieties of wheat in a mix, all bagged up in a mix. I have no idea which one they are. And they planted them out in their field, which wasn't the best soil, and just saw what worked. Those grains that jump up and make they're going to save seeds from and start to develop their own crop. That's what the kind of thinking that we need, especially with climate change. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to sift through all this diversity and find the stuff that works for us in time.
Yeah. Let's see here. I just want quick answers now. We're running real short on time, and there's 39 questions here, so we're not going to get through them all. But Anonymous wants to know, how many plants does it take to make a loaf of bread?
Wow, good question. If it takes 100 square feet, 7, so that would take about 12 square feet. Okay, and good. What we're finding is that if you will space these ancient and heritage grains 1 foot apart, you actually get more of a yield. This is different than modern wheat growing, where they're really short, stumpy, and they just pour tons of fertilizer on, and they've got a whole different way of increasing yield. But the older grains, space them farther apart. Make a loaf of bread. I could make one out of 12 plants. Plant 15, to be sure.
Cool. Then the next question is, how long does it take to grow them?
Well, it depends, again, on the grain. I had Amplitude's barley, this purple barley I grew this year, was about 80 days. I'd say most of my grains, it's a little bit hard to talk about because when most people talk about how long, they're talking about from spring planting until they harvest in the fall. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit different when you do plant them in the winter because they're dormant for a while. So do you count that time until you can harvest? I would say growing time 90 to 120 days, but they will make it in almost every area of the country. When you get up to the Northeast, you get the water and the shorter days and the colder temps. Lots of times, historically, that's where they grew rye and barley instead of wheat. They're still growing grains, but they just weren't. So again, find the grain that'll work for you, and then within that, find the varieties.
It's a grass.
You know, so my big shock this year, Greg, Amplitude's barley was a month earlier than all my other grains.
Wow.
So that's what we're looking for. You know, there are a lot of surprises out there.
Right. So we're going to do one last question, and then we're going to jump in. We're going to bring Janis back in. And this question goes like this: do I need to let the soil rest or plant a different crop in it the next year? It's grass. I mean, you can grow in it over year, can't you?
Traditionally, grains were rotated with other crops because they made the soil so much better for your other high dollar cash crops or whatever.
There you go.
And so, you know, growing the same crop year after year in the same spot, we've all been taught, probably isn't the best idea.
Yeah.
But then grow it something completely different. Grow your quinoa, grow your amaranth, grow, you know, your sorghum, and grow your other grass grains, you know, and work on a rotation like that. And if I were asking that question, my answer would come from somebody in my area who's figured out the perfect rotation with a legume, usually to help build up the nitrogen in the soil.
Cool. You're muted, Janis.
I like the way Bill says that, with the legume. With the legume.
So Kari, there are a bunch of questions in the Q&A that we're not going to get to. It's just, and obviously this is a really popular class. People are really interested. So we probably need to do it again, but there's a bunch of questions in the Q&A that you can pull and answer them in blog posts.
I already grabbed them for you, Kari.
Oh, very good.
Outstanding.
Awesome. So Miss Janis, we have an offer for people on
We do.
the Baker's Bundle. So part of how I'll just be real straight up with everybody. Part of how we pay for all this technology and stuff that we do is we put together seed bundles. So Janis, why don't you share about this one?
Well, we've created a baker's bundle. Thank you, Bill, for this inspiration between Bill and his wife. We've got this baker's bundle, and this is Kari's graphic that she created. There are 70 portions of a quarter cup of seeds in each portion. So this is a fabulous starter bundle to get you going, to start having a chance to play with your different seeds and share them with your neighbors. We've got durum, einkorn, white sonora, cereal rye, emmer, red fife, and spelt. We are working on some more grains to add to our collection, but these are what we have right now. There's no minimum purchase required to get this bundle, and you can get it at greatamericanseedup.org.
Why don't you grab or I'll do it. No, go ahead and put that screen back up, would you, Janis? Because what I want you to do, I'll grab the link for it and I'll put it in the chat. But what I want you to do is, for people that don't know what a baker's bundle or generous portions are, can you explain how much they're getting?
I think Kari would be a great person to explain this.
All right, Miss Kari.
Put you on the spot, Kari.
Yeah, you put me on the spot. Great. Okay, so when in the graphic it says 70 generous portions. Okay, so there are 7 varieties of grains. So each variety we're going to give you 10 portions. And when we talk about a portion, that's our terminology for how much each person gets of that grain, right? And I think that we give each person a quarter cup. Is that right?
Yeah. If you can look at my picture, this is what happens for one variety. This is.
Yeah, it's kind of cutting out because of your
if I
your
stop
background.
Yeah, and if I stop talking, it's not there anymore. So look, this is.
So let me see if I can.
Anymore.
Let me see if I can simplify this a little bit. We put up the seed up bundles, the baker's bundle and our other bundles they're basically 10 packs of seeds. So each of the varieties you get 10 portions, and each basically the way it's designed is that you can split it up with 9 of your other friends, or you can hold on to it all on your own. And it's designed, these bundles are designed, thank you, Bell, because Bell came up with this idea when COVID hit. We call it seed up in a box. These bundles are designed to help you jumpstart your local seed economy.
So what Janis was holding up, if you bought that and you had a 1/4 cup scoop, you would get 10 scoops out of that bag to share between yourself and 9 other friends.
You get a lot of
Yes.
seeds.
Yeah,
The
it's a lot
bottom
of
line
seeds.
is you get a lot of
It's
seeds.
a- This is a lot of seeds. Look at this. This is a lot of seeds. This is just one seed right here. And it comes with cards to explain to you about all the details that we have on the seed.
All right.
It's,
and I'm
it's
dropping-
exciting and fun. And we put this together. We all work together to make this bundle as sustainable as possible. So
And
Cool.
they're also designed for you to build. There's the link in the chat for it. They're also designed for you to build a community around seeds. So
Yeah, our job at the Great American Seed Up was to find seeds farm direct. These came from the farmer, and
Sure.
And put them in bundles so that everybody could get access to them. And skip that whole small packet stage, which is 90% of the cost of the packet of seeds. And so you can give people, 10 people can get, 2 to 3 to 10 times as many seeds as they would get in a small packet. And you get all of that in one of the portions that we send.
And a lot of the seeds that we buy, we don't get from growers who have gone through the process to be certified organic, because it's a very expensive process that makes the seeds, priced out. These seeds in the baker's bundle, these wheat seeds, are certified organic grower. So I know that there's so many people that want that extra step to know that the seeds came from a certified organic grower. You keep that process and grow them organically yourself, and you've got organic wheat.
Mary wants to know, where are we sourcing the grain seeds that are in the baker's bundle? Good
A
question.
certified organic grower locally in Arizona.
Are we getting them all from there?
I think so, right, Bill?
Yeah.
Growers.
Growers,
Yeah.
certified organic growers.
There are very few people have scaled up to a size where we can buy 50-pound bags. And so,
Right.
or, the only other choice are 1,000-pound totes. So,
It's expensive to buy grain in the bulk. I mean, in small portions to get what you need, but it's even more expensive to buy it in the big bulk to make each individual portion worthwhile. We're doing that for you. So that's the Great American Seed Up.
well, as I was saying before, I don't know any place you can buy durum, white Norton, Einkorn, emmer, and spelt in one place. That's just like, I didn't realize what we put together, and I looked at the packaging one day and I went, my God, just even a year ago, that would have been, to see that would have been just a dream for me, because I like to make my own bread.
Yeah.
Right?
Lisa says in the chat, I got a Great American Seed Up bundle and shared it with my friends and family as gifts. Loved it. In fact, that's one of the things. We don't just have the baker's bundle. We have many other bundles.
Thank you.
People last year were buying the bundles, and you get the seeds in bulk and you get the bags to bag your own seeds. A friend of mine was sending them all over the country to his friends for the holidays.
A friend of
So-
mine says anybody that comes over to visit his garden gets a packet to go home with.
Woohoo! Gotta love it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Bill. Thank you, Kari. Thank you, Janis.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I've tried to turn my camera back on, but it won't. You've got me blocked.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about block, but sorry about
Well,
that. Next time we'll have to restart your computer and the router before we get started.
Sorry about that.
No, that's good. And I
It's
do like the
technology.
idea. I do like the idea of a class, the physicality of actually how to grow grains.
Yeah.
'Cause I need to learn
Well,
that too.
Well, the best, if we do that, let's leave more than half of the time for questions. Let's just answer everyone's questions.
Yeah.
Give a little overview to things. The real, that's where you get what you need.
Maybe what we need to do is do a 2-hour grains class on a Saturday.
There you go.
Oh, I'm not Saturday that hard.
And we will see all of you at Seed Up Saturday, this Saturday. It's our Seed Up Q&A-a-thon. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. Any last thoughts, y'all?
Saturday, another chance to get some questions answered.
Yeah.
Just try fresh ground flour in anything. Wherever you can find it almost everywhere now. Or you can always find it around the world, but in the United States, there's bakeries and cafes or whatever. So even if you have no further interest, try something that's fresh ground, and I think that'll begin to convince you of what we're talking about. At least explain some of the zany enthusiasm that we have.
What a good way to put it.
And Saturday, we have 9 topics, and it's not, there's going to be grains for sure, and there's going to be other topics too. So I hope everybody will come and hang out with us.
Join us Saturday. All right, guys. Very good. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will catch you all on the flip side.
Thank you.